Hey guys, I'm Jax and this is my spoiler review for the first episode of the last season of Succession. Final seasons for shows that are amazing and that you love have such an odd combination of feelings as they begin, because it's super exciting and interesting and just kind of terrifying to be like, where is this show gonna go in its final legs? How is it gonna finish? But then you also realize, oh, it's going to be over soon. We've got 10 more weeks of Succession and then it's done, which is such a melancholy and sad feeling. So you're super excited to see how it ends, but you're also like sad and you're like, I don't want it to end. But of course you don't want it to go for too long and be a show that kind of just, pitter-patters out and just keeps going for years and years. So whilst I'm super glad that the creator of Succession is like, bam, here we go, I've got my final act, we're gonna start. It's also, just oddly melancholy. Much like the episode itself, which is kind of got all the classic Succession thingies going on, It's very funny, it's very intense, there's a lot of people saying big words and big numbers that make you kind of horrified, but also you're just enthralled. Particularly the bidding scene is just classic Succession, with two people outbidding each other, and they're saying numbers, and you kind of keep forgetting that they're talking about billions. Like, she's like, oh, this bidding war, it's really upsetting me. I really don't, it's disgusting. This bidding war, what are numbers? 8, 9 billion? And you're just like, oh, the extreme wealth in this show is, it's upsetting. And whilst we get all the classic successioning going on with Logan versus the kids, which follows up really nicely after last season, where they feel more divided than ever, which is really interesting and exciting. Great to see all the three kids together finally. I feel like for so much of the show, there are so many little moments and bits here and there where I'm like, I can't wait for them to team up, and then one of them will betray the others for the father, or situations and things would happen. So they're finally all together after that kind of bombshell moment at the end of season 3, and it's kind of amazing and exciting. Was it just me, or was everyone else very disappointed for the people, just the normal human beings like you and me that live in the world of Succession, that can't experience the giant media thingy that is the 100? What was the 100? They talked about it for like 5-10 minutes. I still couldn't get a grasp on what it was going to be. So Succession is in full succession with the kids versus Logan, and we also get some classic Succession comedy with I was going to say mine, but everybody's favorite duo, presumably. I can't really see how they're not everybody's favorite characters, so I'm just going to presume they are. Tom and Greg, I love them so much. Like, I don't think people can be so stupid and despicable and kind of keep falling into just horrific moments and things and kind of represent people in the real world I would just not love. But I love them so much. And every time Greg or Tom speaks, especially with each other, but not exclusively, but particularly when they interact with each other, I am just like, I'm on cloud nine. I'm loving it so much. And this was kind of some of the most peak Tom and Greg stuff with the handbag and the girlfriend, and just, they have a way that they bounce off each other. And I think that might be one of the saddest things about season 4 being the last season, is that we have only a limited amount of time for more Greg and Tom shenanigans, and I just love them. It's not very good reviewing, but what can you say? They're just the best. Actually, one little note that isn't just how good are they is it's kind of really interesting to see now that the lines have been drawn, at least so far, because of that big bombshell with Tom betraying Shiv. We've kind of jumped ahead in time, which is kind of interesting, because I was wondering how that fallout was going to be. Like, right at the end of the season, he just kind of hugs her, and we don't really know if she knows. She's kind of presuming because of just that little look he gives Logan. And so I was like, oh, that's going to be really interesting to see where that follows up from. And so for them to jump ahead a little bit in time and just be like, nah, they've broken up. They've had the conversation. She knows, or she presumes. And you don't really know what's been said, because at the end of the episode, they have a really heartbreaking and kind of melancholy moment, which kind of made me feel like the episode was such a perfect combination of everything I was feeling before the season started, where I'm like excited and interested and fascinated where it's all going to go, but also filled with melancholy. And this episode really had a lot of that just going on, particularly the sadness and the melancholy with that final moment, because I kind of hate Shiv. I hate all the characters and I really find them engaging and interesting, so I love to hate them. But Shiv, I don't know, just because I love Tom, I've found Shiv to be just kind of frustrating and annoying and just really disgusting towards Tom, just the way she treats him. Like, I don't know, those last moments where she like has that kind of dirty talk scene and really just lets him know how she feels. I don't know, that just really sickens me. It's always made me feel upset, and I feel like I sided with Tom when he decided to betray them. Even though I was so excited that Shiv was teaming up with her two brothers to, like, take down Logan finally. But the fact that Tom betrayed her, I felt like I understood where he was coming from. For, like, a moment in the show, I really wanted them to win, but the fact they lost because of this and because of Shiv's decisions and way she's treated Tom, I found really, like, acceptable, like, heartbreaking and tragic for them, but, like, she kind of had that coming, and it's kind of like, it's brutal and kind of awful, but yeah, I kind of side with Tom a little bit. And so I'm surprised by how sad I felt that they were breaking up, because I was like, I kind of feel like that's better for Tom, for like the long run of his just like being a human man person. So I don't know, it's just such a fascinating moment of just like real sadness, and they're both very open and raw for a very small little moment. It's just really, really tragic and sad to see how it's come, and they go to have a big scene, and she's like, what's it going to be? So it's like there's a lot left unsaid, which I wonder if they'll get to later, or if it's kind of, we know what they would have said. We know how they would have reacted. We know why they both did the things to each other and have said the things to each other because we've watched the show. We get it, so they don't really need to say it. So to have this moment where they don't really say anything, but everything has been said, almost just in looks and feelings, I found really, really fascinating. And super sad. Just super sad. But yeah, with Tom and Greg being kind of the only parts of the family that are still on Logan's side at this point due to that split, it was really interesting and weird to see them kind of be there and be with Logan in this moment, and to have the kind of parallel of that first episode, which is kind of interesting to be like, because even though there's a lot of intense stuff with Kendall and Logan in that first episode at the birthday party, at Logan's party, it's still all the family. They still go play baseball. It's quite a tight, small group, community kind of family situation. And then in this episode, to have just all these people, everyone singing him happy birthday. There's no intimacy. Logan just hates it all. And even though he's very kind of, you know, a certain way with his family in that first episode, and it's not all lovey-dovey, it feels lovey-dovey in comparison to this cold, kind of shallow birthday party with just a bunch of randoms and business people and whoever's and whatevers. And to have that kind of contrast is really kind of, it's like a very clever way to be like, here we are, here's the start of the end. That was the start, here's the start of the end, here we go. And I love those little parallels, those kind of bookending kind of things that creators do in shows like this to kind of remind you of like where we were, where we are now, and where we're going. And I found the choice to have a birthday party in the first episode, paralleling the first episode of the show, just really clever. But honestly, this show is insanely clever and fantastic and just brilliant at all times. Like the writing for this show, especially as I've rewatched it, like recently building up to the final season, I'm overwhelmed by how tight the script is, how funny but so intense and engaging and enthralling and just, I don't know, just so tight. Like the script is, oh, it's good. It's so engaging. I'm overwhelmed by how good this show is. So I don't know. I can't imagine this season's going to drop the ball Game of Thrones style. Like, I think this is going to be one of those amazing, intense, exciting final seasons that just wraps up the show perfectly. And whilst I'm sad it's going, for Undone, that feels right. And I feel like where we are with all the characters, it makes sense to be leading towards an endgame now. One thing I am interested about with this final season is, are we going to get Logan kind of losing all his faculties and becoming very old and senile? Because season 1 was kind of focused mostly on that. And then over season 2 and 3, I feel like they paid lip service, like an episode here or there would kind of come back and he'd relapse a little bit. But they kind of, I don't know if the creators decided, hey, we actually like him at full throttle. Or if they were like, no, we're going to start, that's how the show starts. He kind of comes back around and then he's going to relapse at the end. So I presume he's going to suddenly lose all his faculties and kind of be that character in season 1. And they did a little bit in season 2 and 3, but it feels like they not forgot about it, but they've kind of put it on the back burner. So I wonder if they're going to just keep that on the back burner and they're like, that started the show, but we're kind of focused on different things at this point. So I'm really interested in how they're going to handle Logan in this final season in that regard. Logan having that dinner out with that random bodyguard, random finance guy, like I don't recognize him at all. Maybe that's just my terrible memory. But it was just felt like this new guy that he's just got around as like a bodyguard or a finance yes man, whatever. And he's like, yo, my best buddy friend, buddy boy. It's just so oddly pathetic and sad. And you're like, oh, this giant, big media mogul, maniac man, god of a man person. Like he's discussing like what happens after death and like, is there like an afterlife and all this stuff. but like to this random dude. Like, I don't know, it just felt so like oddly kind of sad and like lonely, and he felt kind of sad and lonely and pathetic, which he never feels. Even when he was losing his faculties in season one, all those things, I don't know, it never felt the same as this did, which just felt such a little weird small moment. And it was interesting to put that in. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know how to make of that. I'm like, am I meant to feel sympathy towards the worst man ever? Like, cause I love him as a character, but he bad man. So like, I don't really feel that much sympathy, but I felt like I almost did in that little moment where I'm like, that's so just, oh, like no one at his birthday party except for Tom, who despite what Tom did for him, he doesn't care about Tom. And Greg, I mean, Logan might be the only person in the world that doesn't like Greg. Oh, I mean, I guess everyone doesn't like Greg. It's just the audience. We all love Greg. He's just so good. Oh, Greg.